How to do legal research for your courseworks and dissertations. This is the topic of discussion today. Rule one is to read the question carefully and identify the topics that you need to research. Especially if it's an essay question, many times students do not get a high grade because they fail to understand what the question is asking them, and they fail to identify correctly the topics that they need to research. We will go through this in detail now. For example, you have an EU law essay question like directives cannot have horizontal effect. Critically discuss. Just an example. Topics to research would be EU law, directives, and horizontal effects. And this question is not asking you to write everything you know about directives or horizontal effect. Neither it is asking you to just give these definitions with its case law. The question is asking you to critically discuss whether or not directives have a horizontal effect. It requires arguments supported by case law and academic opinion. The second rule would be to identify relevant primary law first. Primary law means regulations. In this case, it would be also EU regulations, but normally it's statutes and case law or international law as well in some cases. The list of cases and statutes you're expected to mention in the essays would be in your lecture outlines. So if we consider the example that I made before, if you have an essay about directives, you can go through your lecture outlines about directives and see the list of cases and statutes or EU regulations you are expected to mention in your essay on directives. It would just be a list though, but it's very important to have that list because with that list, you will know exactly what primary law is expected from you to mention in your essay, and then you can do your research accordingly. You can use our platform to research those cases because they will only provide the list. Your lecture outlines will just be a list of cases and statutes. You have to research on your own the summaries of those cases and legal principles and so on. So our platform is perfect for doing that. You can use our platform. We have over 3,500 cases in our database, which is very simply summarized for you. But if you, in an unlikely scenario that you cannot find a case or topic you need, you can look for it elsewhere. You can Google it, or you can use your online library, or you could use books as well, but we don't really recommend normally to use this big textbooks because it's very information heavy and most of it is not even necessary to know, can be confusing for students and overwhelming. So we suggest that you look at journal articles instead, which tend to be much shorter, or you look at online resources. You can book a tutoring session if you need help with researching and understanding the law. Primary law for horizontal effects of directives. Just to refer to the example that we made before about an essay question about directives, the primary law would be Article 288, Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, which says that directives are binding. Marshall case would also be very important to mention because this Marshall case established that directives cannot have a horizontal effect. Van Dune case would be important. Directives are directly effective. That's a principle that was established in this case. Forster versus British Gas. Possible horizontal effect if a claim is brought against a body responsible for providing a public service under state control. Forster versus British Gas is an exception to the rule that directives do not have a horizontal effect, as well as von Coulson that established the principle of indirect effect. So the first two cases, Marshall and Van Dune, would be argument 4 to support the statement that directives do not have a horizontal effect, whereas the last two cases, Foster versus British Gas and von Coulson establishing the principle of indirect effect, would be an argument against the principle that horizontal effects do not apply to directives. So this way you would have arguments on both sides, and this is exactly what you're expected to do for essay questions. Make arguments for and against the statement that has been given to you, rather than write everything you know about the topic. We have a full answer about a similar essay question on simple setting that you can have a look. Another rule would be to find relevant journal articles on your library. Most of the students don't know how to find precisely the journal articles that is relevant for your essay. So that is why I decided to go into detail about this. First would be to Google your university name plus online library. Then you log in. You have to click on advanced search. Then you have to write keywords, as many as you can, to write the most relevant, to get the most relevant journal articles, and make sure that you click on peer-reviewed journal articles. There is a filter that says peer-reviewed, and that has to be clicked. For example, in this essay question, directives cannot have horizontal effect. Critically discuss the keywords would be directives, horizontal effect, direct effect, and EU law. Using these keywords, you can do the research for journal articles. Step one, as we said before, is Googling your university name. For example, University of London online library, like it is shown on the screenshot. Next step would be to click on advanced search right here. And this is the same for all the universities I've seen so far. And we have students from practically all the universities in England. Yeah, this is how it works for all of them. You have to look for advanced search, which is usually just below the search bar. You click on that, and then a window like this would appear where you have to put the keywords. Make sure it says all fields. This means that you could make it more specific if you want to. If you click on this drop down, you will have an option of choosing title, content. So for example, if you want this keyword to be mentioned in title rather than in the entire content, you can do that. But usually all fields would be enough. So you can keep it on all fields and put all the keywords here. And then make sure that you click on full text online, which means that it will only show you the results that has full PDF online, accessible online, and scholarly and peer-reviewed right here. There's a filter on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. Depends, like every university has it in a visible place, but it can be either on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. Make sure you look at it carefully. For example, for this essay question, when I wrote these keywords, EU law, direct effect, horizontal effect, it gave me 26 results. Then 26 is good. It means that it's specific enough. If it gives you 1,000 results, then you need to add more keywords to get more specific results for your research. But if you get like anything less than 50, it's already good, specific enough. And you can have a look at abstracts. Every search results here would have an abstract. And when you see the abstract, you will have an idea what the journal article is about. And if it sounds like it's very relevant to your research or your essay question, you can download it. How many journal articles do you need to download? It's a common question I get. It really is not about quantity rather than quality. What do I mean by quality? It's you get a first class because you have very good arguments. And whatever quantity of journal articles it takes for you to have very good arguments, that's your number. It's not possible to say how many. Normally, to give you an example, if I have an essay of 2,000 words, probably I would download 4 journal articles or 5. But it could be more or it could be less. There is no magic number, as long as your arguments are very good and supported by case law and like regulations, as well as journal articles, and it's complete arguments on both sides. You should be able to get first class. Yeah, finally, when you download the journal articles, you need to skim through it and identify arguments that is relevant for your essay. Each journal article may be like 20 pages long, 10 pages long. So it's very long and you cannot be reading it entirely. It's not really possible. You may probably have like many essays to write. And if you have like 10 journal articles to read for each, 20 pages long, it's not really possible to read it all. So my advice for you would be to skim through it. Some of them may have like a table of contents or may have subtitles. Have a look at those subtitles and read the ones that are most relevant for what you're trying to argue in your essay, and find whatever supports your arguments. So if, for example, if it's an essay about directives, we want arguments to support the statement that directives do not have a horizontal effect. So we would go through the journal article to find anything that could support that statement, or the opposite, that directives do have a horizontal effect. And we would need to find something in the journal articles that supports that statement. You can also research online resources. That's allowed, and sometimes even necessary, because you need to do further research than what journal articles may give you. But make sure that you only find the reliable sources. For example, reputable media websites would be okay, like BBC, CNN. Sometimes you need to see like the news, or if you are, especially if you're talking about Brexit, for example, there are a lot of interesting articles about Brexit on media, and it would be interesting for you to see online resources to include it in your arguments. So that's why sometimes online resources are necessary. Supreme Court website is also another very reliable source that you can use. Sometimes they have very good summary of recent cases that you may need to use. Government website, they have lots of resources, lots of content. And if you just Google whatever you're looking for, everything will come up. Law Commission reports, this is normally about reforms. So if you have an essay question where you have to suggest reforms, possible reforms, Law Commission reports would be a good source to get an idea of what kind of reforms there could be. Websites owned by international organizations or supranational organizations like European Union, that is a good source, reliable source as well. Articles published by reputable universities, that's fine too. And you can find relevant online resources of the type explained above by typing your essay question title in Google, like this. If you just put in Google, directives cannot have horizontal effects, you will find lots of content that matches these words, and you will be able to find all the relevant online resources about this topic. You can do this for any essay you have. It's not just about EU law, it's about everything. These are legal writing skills and legal research skills that applies to every area of law. If you have a dissertation, other than doing the legal research in the ways that I have explained before, there can be additional things that you may need to do for dissertations, but it's not always the case. For some dissertations, it is required. For some dissertations, it is not required. Especially if it's an undergraduate law degree, it's unlikely to be required. And you need to ask your professor. You need to ask your professor to clarify if empirical research is required from you. Empirical research is basically doing research on your own. Instead of looking at what other people have said on the internet or in the journal articles, you do your own research and you draw your own original conclusions. For example, you could interview relevant people for whatever research you're doing. You could do statistical analysis. You could use existing sources for statistical analysis, but there has to be some original research in there, drawing original conclusions from the findings. For example, this is an example dissertation title: critically evaluate existing and proposed strategies for taxing borderless digital businesses. A possible empirical research could be interviewing the directors of digital businesses to research more about how they are taxed in practice, or interviewing tax lawyers to learn more about how digital tax system works in practice. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about how we can help you. We are a team of content creators and tutors. We graduated with very high grades from different English universities, such as LSE, City University of London, BPP, Keele University, University of Leeds, etc. And we're not associated with these universities, but we hire the best graduates as our content creators and tutors. We have a wide variety of study materials that you can use on most of the areas of law. We have revision notes, example essays, tutorial videos like this one, and even animated videos as well. We have quizzes, flashcards, case summaries, and study groups where you can join. Also, we have tutoring sessions for personalized support. This is a one-to-one meeting with a tutor where you will be able to ask any questions you may have. We often assist students with specific courseworks and help them to prepare for their exams. It's tailored to your needs, so you decide what you want us to help you with. It can be to practice legal writing, prepare for your exam, get some guidance on your courseworks. All of this is possible, and you can book a tutoring session online. If you have any questions, you can always contact our customer service. We have a customer service chat on the platform that you can use to contact us. We have already helped 25,000 students studying in the UK to get high grades. As you can see, a lot of our students get a first class. In particular, 90% of our regular premium users have reported to have got a first class. So our system works. The combination of our content and tutoring sessions should maximize your chances of getting a first class law degree.